It's simple, not easy, and how to tell the difference. Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9-to-5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising. It's simple, not easy. How to quickly tell the difference. This is probably one of the biggest joys to be able to share on the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels is today's insight that I'm going to give you. Because one of the things that comes up all the time is, well, yeah, it's simple. Because I say it pretty frequently. Yeah, it's simple, not easy. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is sharing stories. And so the reason for this episode actually comes from a conversation that I had with one of my sons. Now, I had a chance to spend a great summer together in the summer of 2024. So I don't know when you're listening to this podcast. It doesn't really matter. But this concept or the question that my son asked me led to a conversation that I was not anticipating. And it also, when I tell you about it, it's going to help you to clarify this concept. Because if you hear it all the time, or if you're confused on like the difference between simple and easy, wow, this very brief episode and the conversation that I have with my son, it's going to make it crystal clear to you the difference between the two things. And so and it makes me happy because my sons consistently are listening to the podcast, they're watching the video episodes, and it sparks new ideas for them. Right. And so when I think about the tough decision it was for me to actually push forward and build the podcast out, like the conversation that I had over the summer, it just fills my heart. Because you may see on the outside, like this was really about building the podcast and building the brand and building the thought leadership platform. And that was some of the stuff that happened. But really, like one of the things that I love most about this podcast is it's a way for me to also share stories and insights with my sons who will be and already are walking into an amazing greatness because they're curious, because they want to know, because they want to challenge their current thought process. And this conversation over the summer was absolutely awesome. So this goes out to both of my sons, and I know that you're going to benefit as well. So one of these things that consistently happen as well is like it kind of took me back to like corporate life. And I know in corporate life you can be super busy, distracted, and you don't have the moments to take and have these teaching moments. Or if you're doing it wrong, like I was in the very beginning, you miss out on pockets of being able to share, which is another reason I love being able to have the podcast and be able to share with you here. But one of the questions that my son asked me was like, I hear you say all the time that it's simple, not easy, but I don't understand the difference between simple and easy. And I thought, wow, this is cool. So we're all in the car together and we're having this conversation, and my oldest is in the back and kind of takes his earphones out and he's listening. He wants to check things out too. And it was really cool. It's one of these days, it's super hot outside. We're in the air conditioning. So it's kind of cool. The music is pumping. And I thought to myself, well, wow, this is a really cool teaching moment. I didn't say that out loud, but this is a cool teaching moment. And so what I thought to myself is, you know what? Great question. You know what, son? And one of the things that I get the question all the time, because what I want you to understand, viewer, listener, is many times we overcomplicate things. You put a goal together and then you build these super elaborate like plans that are so complicated that they're difficult to actually execute, or difficult to do. Right. And sometimes when you just take a step back, you can make things much simpler. So my son asked me the question that what's the difference between simple and easy? And so I said, well, son, I'm going to give you an example. And I know that I've talked about this before. And if you've read anything that I do on LinkedIn, and this is something that I've actually went into great detail explaining. And in the explanation, I kept it simple. Why is that? Well, one of the things that helped me in corporate, because of all the distractions, because there's so much that's happening all the time, I had to create more time for myself. And I'm going to give you this example to help you understand the difference between simple and easy. Because I wanted to build my side business, I knew that there was only 24 hours in a day. And so I was not being as efficient as I possibly could with my time. Why? Because I was in sales and sales leadership, and there's a lots of last minute kind of pulling you here, pulling you there because you got to hit the quota. Well, when you're working in a 9 to 9, like I was, there are very few pockets of time that you're not utilizing, especially once everybody gets up and gets moving. So as I explained this to my son, I said, listen, so one of the things that I did was I created a very simple plan. In this simple plan, the goal was to give me an extra month. It's actually 31 and a quarter days every year, more than most people, because in that extra month, I could accomplish more things. He kind of looked at me like, how do you create an extra month? And I said, well, because I created a very simple plan. Now, the plan is very simple because the outcome is 31 and a half months. How do you get to do that? It was basically by waking up in the morning between 4 and 7. Yes, I did say between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., focusing on me, being able to do the things that were important for me, focusing on, meditation, breathing, exercise, working on my business, building out the constructs, and being able to go into the details of the plans that I needed for that day. But basically, in its simplest form, was basically 5 days a week, wake up between 4 and 7 a.m. And that would give me an extra 15 hours a week. If you did that over, basically I was saying 50 weeks a year, 750 hours divided by 24, it's just over just over a month, 31.25 days. Why am I telling you all that? Well, because the plan in itself, I said this to my son because he's looking at me, but more about how I created more time. But I said, do you see how simple that plan is? And he said, yeah, well, you'd basically just wake up between 4 and 7 a.m. It gives you 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, because on the weekends, I didn't want to do that. 5 days a week. And then basically that's 15 times. So he was going through his multiplication. And so he actually said, yeah, it seems simple enough. I said, yeah, it's simple enough. I said, now, here's the thing that happens, especially when you're in a big corporate job like daddy, is the days get very, very busy. And so there are lots of different things that happen, which, like for me, was travel. There was time to be able to have personal communication. When I wanted to also be able to see certain people, I wanted to be able to keep up with the relationships with friends. I wanted to be able to also work on special projects because early on I wanted to be able to move up the corporate ladder, which meant more time. I was working later at night, and then I wanted to be at home, and then I wanted to help with dinner, and I wanted to help get things done. And so as I started telling him all the different things that happen, I started saying, so at the end of the day, it could be really super tired, or I may have to be in a different place and I'm traveling, or I have to catch a flight at 6 a.m. in the morning. And he said, well, that doesn't sound like that's very easy. Bingo. That's the difference. And as we started talking about that, he started understanding that it's the little different pieces that can impact the way that you're able to actually go out and complete a plan. And this was the very simple example. So he realized that by being able to follow a very simple plan, that helped me to put in the steps to be able to build a business, like this private equity company that was able to raise 8 figures and 10 million plus. So that was something that would happen. But more importantly, it was able to demonstrate and show to my son that when you are able to follow through and build very simple plans, you're able to gain the clarity that you need to drive towards a goal. And so when you're creating plans, especially when you're getting started, keeping them as simple as possible, 1, 2, 3, versus creating a plan that has 25 steps. Those plans aren't simple because every single step, there are lots of different subparts and different things that can impact that in your ability to execute on a plan, or your ability to do a plan or create a plan or follow through on a plan that is very simple. So hopefully with this example, you now understand the difference between simple and easy and how to be able to tell the difference. So once again, the plan is very simple to create 31 days, or let's call it a month, just simply waking up once a day or 5 times a week between 4 and 7, and being able to do that consistently for 5 days a week for 50 weeks out of the year. The plan is simple enough. But because there are so many different factors, travel, life happening, maybe you're tired, you have to do other things that conflict. Maybe it's a lot tougher for you to wake up at 4 or 3:15 to be ready at 4 or 3:30, whatever the case may be. So The goal is, if you've ever struggled to understand the difference between simple and easy, now you've got a really concrete example that's going to help you. Thanks to my son and my sons for interacting in the conversation. And also share with your family, share with your friends, help to make the positive impact that you're looking for. Because while you're doing that, I'll be here preparing for the next episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much. Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.